Well, it's March 22nd of the year 2020, and I'm out doing some shed hunting today up here in north central Wisconsin. We still got a ton of snow. It's not the best time to be out walking in the woods, but being on public land, I want to beat everybody else to them if there are some sheds out here. And then actually I'll probably come back out and re-scout everything later on once the snow melts and I can see where scrapes are at. But I thought I'd give a little rundown of this area right here. I always said I'm going to do more videos of tips and tactics and how I do things, and this bigwood spot here is a great example of why I picked this spot. And it just happened this morning. If you can see behind me here, this is all thick hemlock through here, and I was sneaking up through here, and this whole thing is hemlock, and the spot to hunt is this little hardwood island right here. That's kind of the key to this whole setup, and I don't think I've ever really seen anybody do any videos of that. You know, you see people doing videos on hunting islands out in marshes and stuff like down in southern and western Wisconsin, but up here in the big woods, if you can find an island you can see it right here. This is like I don't know, it's like 65 yards by 30 yards wide island out in the middle of this swamp. As you can see back down in here, this is more hemlock, and then it kind of opens up into like flooded hardwood back in there. And sure enough, I come creeping up in here, and there were some deer moving down through there, and they did exactly what they always do. They always funnel right up to this hardwood island. So if you're out in the big woods looking for a spot to hunt and you really don't know where to go, if you can find a hardwood island out in the middle of a swamp like this, it's usually a good spot. So I was just standing right there in that little patch of open ground, and I come through the hemlocks. That's where I access. But this past fall, I had my camera right up there on that tree, and there was a huge primary scrape right here, and it was hot. I had a couple nice bucks, one really decent 9-point, probably 130 inches, but as you can see, there's no licking branch. A licking branch was coming off that tree down in here, but we had that real bad windstorm and it blew it down. And I came back in and put a scrape stick up on that tree and hung a new licking branch out here, but it just never was the same after that original licking branch blew down. But those deer were filtering through that swamp over here, and as you can see, I'm walking up and getting higher in elevation on this little island. And I don't have to go very far right here. And I'm in the middle of the island up here on this little hill in the middle of this swamp. See, it's all hemlock and flooded hardwood around here. But all the deer funnel up to this spot right here, and every buck was hitting that scrape there, and then I was gonna hide up in that tree right there. So this is something to look for if you're hunting big woods and just don't know where to go. Start on the edges. Those are probably the most popular spot, is hunting the edges and the transition lines and funnels that they make, and I've got all my opinions on that and where to go. But you can find a spot like this where it's an island, especially an island that rises up in elevation. It's only a 15-20 foot rise, but you get up on this high ground and all the deer, there's some good runways coming up here, but just like those deer were doing this morning, they were just funneling through this stuff here, and they worked right up to this island until I think they saw me trying to move around down there and get better video of them. But another bonus to this island is it's got a couple oak trees on it, and as I say, I had a nice buck hitting that scrape and a couple times in the daylight, but I just never came back here and hunted because I had a couple bigger bucks I was after. But then we had that real bad windstorm come through during season last year and blew the natural licking branch down, and I put it back up using a scrape stick, but the bucks just never hit it as well after the wind blew the one down. But now that I've seen those deer, and I'll show the video, I got some video of the deer, and the one that picked me off down here, it really looked like a shed buck. So gonna put this camera away and move on down through here and see if I can find some sheds. And I was gonna say, these islands are really easy to spot on any kind of an aerial photo that you can find that doesn't have leaves on the trees, because they just stand out as brown spots, and then you gotta get down in there walking and see if it's a high spot or a low spot. And sometimes Google Earth has some good aerial imagery with no leaves on the trees, but actually Bing Maps, I found, is what works the best up in this area. They're older maps, but they at least show where spots like this are, where it's a little island of hardwood, or some kind of change in the landscape out in the middle of these monotonous swamps. I think that buck that I seen there was a shed buck, and then that one bedded down. I watched that deer bedded down, but earlier when I was recording them deer, there was actually 4 of them moving through there. The one looked like it was limping, and I think that's the one that bedded down. But burning daylight, I'm gonna get a move on here because I got a lot of walking to do. Well, that's about it for the day. I didn't find any shed antlers, but as you can see behind me, even the hardwoods aren't melted out yet. There's a bunch of snow, but I wanted to get down in here and take a look before a bunch of other people get in here. And then there was another spot after I left my little hot spot on that hardwood island. I wanted to go down here and check. Looked like there's a good funnel on aerial photos, but private land guys already got it stacked full of ladder stands and homemade junk, so scratch that spot off the list. I'm just gonna have to stick to my little honey hole back here on that hardwood island out in the swamp. But I don't know if you can see behind me, this whole entire hardwood and even that island back where I was at is all marked. So once they cut this, it's gonna be a whole new ball game and have to learn it all over again, because everything's gonna change. But I'm gonna get back down into the swamp and go out and hit that island, make sure there wasn't any antlers I missed out there, and head for the truck.